This track is called Itadakimasu, and it's something I put together while I was in Berlin, and needed to create some material to play a live show there, and kind of formed out of this disjointed guitar loop paired with a out of time Rhodes loop, and that kind of led into all sorts of other craziness. So from February 2011 until February 2012, I was living in Berlin, trying to soak up the musical scene there and the artistic scene, and generally just live in a place that has a different culture to hear and see what it's like. And I guess that really influenced the music I made while I was over there. So I recorded and reprocessed and put together this album while I was there. Some made partly out of recordings that I'd done in times previous to that, but all put together and influenced by what I was kind of going through over there. And I guess this new album is sort of more of a collection of songs or short structured works than some of the other music I've been doing, which is more experimental, or is structurally more experimental and free-flowing. This is all quite structured and blocked out.
Yeah, there's a definite feeling of themes running throughout the piece. One of the album tracks is called Skeletal, and then they vary with frame and axis in parenthesis, or mass, or altitude, just for the listener at home who isn't looking at the CD case and doesn't know what I'm talking about. But there seems to be very much a sense of drawing on other aspects of the album to make a really sort of cohesive whole.
Yeah, that was definitely a case of reprocessing material that I'd used once and then finding other ways to take that as a starting point for different pieces. So in particular, I used a lot of Rhodes piano that I'd recorded previous to leaving, and then trying to reform that, and kind of what I'd done is just record single notes and just chords that didn't really make sense, and trying to take that and put that into some kind of cohesive musical structure. And the three pieces that came out of it all use that in fairly different ways, although they all are fitting of the Skeletal title, because I feel that they are still very much related.
It's a really interesting way to work it, and treating instrument samples as, I guess, field recordings in a way, in the same way that you would warp and manipulate field recordings, as opposed to treating instruments as things that create certain notes and certain structures. Yeah,
well, I love getting inside of a sound and really cutting it up and doing different things with it. Simple things like time stretching and editing it, and then also when you're editing in a digital environment, cutting off bits and pieces so that you get digital artifacts, and that really changes the sound that's produced. And that's something I really love, trying to take one sound and turn it into many different things. I've been trying for a long time to incorporate a few more rhythmic elements in what I do, and I've found that it's a whole nother world to know about how to make beats and how to get that rhythmic element without it coming across as you don't know what you're doing, or you're definitely beginning at that. And for me, it was more of a case of just creating beats that were pretty messed up, really, and really using the computer and letting it get a bit out of time, and using random number generators to get kind of tricky or sort of off-time beats. And that's what I could use. That's what could fit in with my music, and I couldn't really make the kind of beats that you hear in this sort of dance or more of the beat world, I guess.
So is that something you sort of look at as being an eventual goal?
I really enjoy incorporating rhythmic elements, and I think my new release has some of that, and the bits that I've done are quite sparse. But when I'm doing other things, like sort of the audio-visual stuff, or the more noise-based performances, then it's a bit different. It's a bit different in the way that I would incorporate beats, and I like to have some, I guess I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to figure out how I can use it in my music. I don't really know all the answers yet.
chat off air about the nature of the music you were seeing overseas, and I guess the thing that kind of really stuck with me after having a chat about that was you mentioned that everyone overseas is very much either acoustic based and plays an instrument there, or does laptop based performance.
Yeah, I guess I was seeing a lot of improvised music, and in that sort of improvised music scene, the people all play with each other, but in kind of small groups between 2 and 8 players, and they were a lot of instrumentalists, but the people who were playing laptop or electronics were basically in control of their instrument as if it was an acoustic instrument, and they had the same degree of control over that. And I guess when you get into that sort of world, and there's just more influence from that kind of thing, as opposed to playing in Perth, where I think a lot of people come more from a band situation, and then they move into affecting their own instrument and trying to create solo pieces out of that, where when I was over there, no one was really that interested in playing solo unless they had solo material emanating from their instrument that was worthy of a set, if that makes sense. For example, like instrumentalists like Clayton Thomas, who plays double bass, and he was absolutely incredible, and he can really create a whole set or a whole piece of sounds just from that one instrument, without the need for enhancing that with electronics.
Sure. So how did you find this sort of approach or philosophy affected what you were creating at the time, which was what would become Raetina?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm not sure that had such a direct impact, but like the way that I was programming the computer and practicing and trying to perform was so that I was trying to make the computer into something that I could play like an instrument with that degree of control. And I started performing and practicing with the saxophonist Andrew Brooks, who also was really into this same scene, and we discussed the music quite a bit, and basically we both wanted to be able to initiate an idea and lead in that sense. So I built in a lot of synthesis into my programming, and I guess that's probably the most direct connection to the recordings, where I'm using this synthesis and trying to build things just using the computer, rather than taking a starting point of, say, playing the guitar myself and then processing that into it, or looping that and creating a track from it.
This track is entitled Sleepy Solemn. Is there anything any parting thoughts you want to leave regarding this track?
I guess this was just digging more into the textural or spectral elements of music and trying to make a really huge, massive sound, but also contrasting that with some kind of out of time or irregular rhythms that kind of continue throughout the track. It was, just an experiment in deconstructing that sort of music for me.
Fantastic. Kynan Tan, thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you very much, Sam.